This week on Let's Talk Schools, we're diving into an exciting and important topic, artificial intelligence, or AI, and what it means for our students, teachers, and schools. Hello, welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Schools. I'm Mike Looney, the host of the show, and have the good fortune of being the superintendent here in Fulton County. Today, we're going to be talking about technology and its impact on teaching and learning in Fulton County schools. More specifically, we're going to be talking about the impact of artificial intelligence in our classrooms and in our workspaces all across the district. And I have our two local experts, our Chief Information Officer, Dr. Joe Phillips, who's really a spokesperson and guru across the nation talking about this topic. And we have our Director of Instructional Technology, Heather Van Looy, with us today. And Heather, you're the person that helps make it happen in the classroom for the teachers. So I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
Talk about what you're seeing in classrooms across Fulton County schools.
Well, I think right now our teachers are really trying to embrace AI, but also be safe about it, right? And so we have image generators in all of our classrooms, K-12. We have a lot of teachers who are starting to have conversations with students about AI using an image generation. How do you use text and get AI to generate an image? And that way, students can learn about AI, but they're not necessarily using a large language model like ChatGPT. We do have some teachers venturing into using Microsoft Copilot, which is a large language model, in our high schools, but that's just become available in our high schools this semester. So that's sort of brand new. What has been happening a lot is a lot of our teachers are starting to embrace AI in the creation of their materials and using it to help them generate lesson plans and new ideas for how they can teach something in a new or unique way, using it to maybe differentiate materials so that I've generated a lesson plan, but I have this other group of students over here who need something different. How can I tweak that in a way that's efficient and use AI for those kinds of purposes?
So for the novices in the world that really don't know much about AI at all, artificial intelligence, you talked about image generation. So Joe, what does that mean to the everyday Joe in the world when we talk about image generation?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. So with generative AI, the idea is that you can talk to the code or talk to the artificial intelligence, or some people call it cognitive computing, and tell it what you would like it to make for you. And with generative AI, it can make pictures for you. So you can say, I would like to see Dr. Mike Looney riding on a pony. And it could generate a picture of Dr. Mike Looney riding on a pony, or it could generate a song for you, or a video, or a lot of what's happening worldwide right now is the generation of text, because these models that are out right now, you put in what's called a prompt or a set of instructions of what you would like, and it'll generate text for you, whether it's an essay or a book or an article or some other text-based thing right now. As the models are evolving, we're seeing how these things are coming together as well. And so maybe it'll create a full movie with sound and text and dialogue and all of that as well. But in a nutshell, generative AI just means the computer is generating things for you based upon what you're asking it to make.
So does that mean it searches the internet for a picture of me on a horse, and then it just finds that and then gives it to you? Or does it mean there actually is a picture of me riding a horse somewhere?
Well, it could be both, to be honest. So if there is a picture of Dr. Mike Looney riding on a horse somewhere, it could have access to that, especially some of the new models that are coming out that can do what's called live search. So a lot of these models were trained on internet data, and then they had a cutoff date where they stopped taking in new data. But then what's happened in the last year or so is they can go back out and search the internet live. And so it might find a picture of you. We might need to upload a picture of you so it knows what you look like. And the AI can talk back to you and let you know if it needs help or it can't do something and help guide you through the process.
Right. I'm just trying to keep it real simple, Heather. So if there is no picture of me on a horse somewhere, using that as an example, would generative AI, the text-to-picture tool, then create one on its own?
It would. It would generate its own, so it would know, like, it would be trained on this large database of what do horses look like, right? And it might take all of those different horses and look for patterns of what makes a horse, right? And so it's searching all this information and looking for patterns in the data, whether it's an image or text or things like that. And then it's using that to put it back together to create something brand new that may not ever existed before. So not only would it generate something, but if I put that, generate an image of Dr. Mike Looney on a horse, and Joe puts it in, we might get two totally different images. We likely would get two totally different images of you on a horse. But as Joe said, we might have to give it a reference of what does Mike Looney look like.
Right. So Joe, translating that into, I can see where that would be fun and creative. Let's translate that into learning. How are students, more specifically, how are teachers going to help students learn content with this generative AI tool?
Yeah, I'll give you a great example that I helped my son with this week in his class. So they're learning World War II history right now in social studies. And the assignment that he had was to create a podcast about World War II history, to talk about what caused the war, 3 significant battles, and how the war ended and who won. And he was able to use Copilot to create the script for that podcast, go through and make sure that everything was accurate that it was saying. And then with the script, he was able to shoot the podcast video and use AI to generate what's called the B-roll, or the extra footage that went along with that. And so the teaching and learning that the learning he was able to do through that teaching process was go much deeper than just sitting in class or just writing an essay or something like that. It activated parts of his brain, his creativity, his critical thinking processes, and partnering and learning along with the AI as a tool got him to a place about World War II that I don't think my son would have ever gotten to.
Right.
So just as one example.
So Heather, how do we ensure that students don't take shortcuts? If generative AI can write an essay for someone, how do we make sure somebody doesn't type and write this essay and I never touch anything, never do any work, never learn? How do we protect ourselves? And more importantly, how do we protect our students from that?
Yeah. So it's a real concern, right? It certainly is capable of doing that. And I think a lot of people's concern is that that's the only way that you're going to use AI is to, we call it prompt and paste, right? Like take the prompt that my teacher gave me, put it into AI, have it generate the answer, and then I copy and paste that and turn it in as my own work. And that is something that could happen. So it's something that we need to safeguard against. And I think the ways that we safeguard against that is by having open conversations with students about what's responsible use, talking about how when they do that, they cut off themselves from the learning experience and that the only person that they're hurting is themselves. And then the other piece is to make it acceptable to use AI in responsible ways and teach kids what that looks like so that it's not this, oh, I'm just going to cheat to use it, but I really get to see the power of how AI could help me in my learning environment. I think when we teach kids and say, you can use AI for this assignment, but you can only use it for the brainstorming portion of the assignment. Or you can use AI for this, but we are going to use it to generate our outline, and then we're going to draft and write from that. So that's one piece, is educating students, having open and ongoing conversations with them about how we responsibly use AI. And then I think the other piece is that as educators, we have to be thinking about how are we going to make sure that we're not focusing our energies on trying to catch kids cheating with AI, and instead, how are we going to design learning experiences that ensure that we are capturing the fact that the kids have learned it, right? So that even if a kid cheated on their final assignment, I've done enough things along the way in that learning process where I've had conversations with them. We've had open discussions. They've made infographics. They've done all these different things that I'm confident that they were learning along the way throughout the process, so that it's not an all or nothing proposition with the AI.
Joe, so as the Chief Information Officer, how do we equip our teachers? This is really a fast-moving train. Seems like every day something new comes out. How do we equip our teachers to work in such a rapidly changing environment and maximize the potential of artificial intelligence, generative artificial intelligence, for the good?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dr. Looney. And to Heather's point, training our teachers about how to use this technology is vitally important. The other thing that we're doing is setting up our AI ecosystem in such a way that we have a safe playground or safe AI sandbox inside of Fulton County schools that our teachers, our staff, and our students can use. So Heather talked about Microsoft Copilot a little bit ago, and that's our first iteration of a safe place to go. So when students go into Copilot, it's going through all of our filtering. We have records of what they're doing in there, and we can make sure that it's appropriate and that the safeguards are in place. Same with our teachers. When they go into Copilot, we're making sure that they're trained, that they're supported in the use of Copilot. And when they use it, that it is that safe place, and they don't have to worry about putting the wrong type of material or information into that sandbox, if you will. The rest of the ecosystem that we're looking to build out right now with our AI task force for Fulton County Schools that actually kicked off last week is the overall ecosystem for our operations, maintenance, police, instructional side, and all that, and having one ecosystem where all of our data comes back and is in a safe location, and people can then start to explore AI in a safe way. What that means is we're not going to try to keep up with every evolution that's coming out on the market for AI. Not everything that's coming out is going to be something that we could use. And so part of the work of the AI task force is breaking down what's called use cases or ways that we could use AI into three categories. Ones we want to explore now in Fulton County schools, ones we want to explore later, and ones we want to explore never. So an example of explore never, we may never want self-driving school buses in Fulton County schools as an example. So it can go in that category.
During my tenure.
Absolutely. And so that'll let us really focus in on what we want to explore now. And so while AI is evolving incredibly fast, it doesn't mean we have to move at the rate that it is moving. There's a big difference between what's capable with AI and what we want to adopt and implement for the betterment of teaching and learning.
Right. It's a fascinating topic. And I know, in speaking with teachers and school-based leaders, it seems like our students are already ahead of the curve in some way. But you said something to me that really resonated, and that is a safe place to explore and work with generative AI, artificial intelligence tools. So the question I have is, if I create a product, whether it's an image or an essay, and I represent that as my product, who owns that product? Is it the student's product? I'm a little bit worried about a lack of clarity about ownership and because it then goes out to the World Wide Web, I guess, right?
It can go out to the web, and there's still some grayness to that copyright. And the U.S. Copyright Office actually came out within the last 2 weeks to try to answer some of that, which is if you just kind of prompt and get a result, that's not copyrightable. But if you prompt, get a result, and then modify to make it your own, then you can copyright that. And so in terms of student work, the same copyright or non-copyright provisions would apply whether they're using AI or not using AI to create their work. And the same thing for employees. The work we create as Fulton County employees is copyrighted by the district, not by individual employees. But outside of that, it's still a gray area, and we don't quite know where those lines are between what's copyrighted and not copyrighted with the generative AI.
So Heather, if I were a parent watching this show, or just a citizen watching this show, shouldn't say just a citizen watching this show, and I wanted to learn more about this topic, is there a place that you would direct them to learn more about what we're doing in Fulton County schools as it relates to artificial intelligence?
We have a wide range of top resources that are available to staff on our employee hub. I hope to have a site on our public-facing website at some point in the future. That isn't there right now, but there are a ton of resources out there. There are great podcasts about AI and education and how, it can be used. There are resources on the Microsoft website about Copilot and how it can be used in the educational field. So you don't have to go very far to find a lot of information and resources out there.
And I know last year, or I guess the beginning of this year, we required for teachers to have a statement on their syllabi indicating what their position was on the use of artificial intelligence in the student work. Is that correct?
That's correct. All of our syllabi in grades 6 through 12 have a statement on there that basically says it's okay to use AI in this class with teacher permission, and you have to be transparent and about where, when, and how you used it. And finally, you are ultimately responsible for the accuracy of this work. So if you use AI and it gets something wrong, then you are responsible for making sure. So it teaches kids that they have to be fact checking because AI can get it wrong.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I want to end with that. I've heard a term called hallucinations. And AI, Joe, what are hallucinations using generative AI?
That's a great question. So AI is very, very good at being extremely confident while also being wrong. It doesn't know if the information it has generated for you is right or wrong. So basically, it's a large prediction software that is grabbing data and assembling it for you. If the data it's grabbing is incorrect, it can think it's right while giving you incorrect information. And so that is called a hallucination. So if you ask it, who was the Chancellor of Germany during World War II, if it grabs the wrong person, it will be very confident that it was somebody else other than Adolf Hitler for that.
And that's just because the data it's retrieving is either not there or wrong.
Absolutely.
So you said there was a cutoff date. So as an example, if I said what happened in Fulton County schools on yesterday, the data is not up to date, so it might make up an answer because it doesn't have any data to pull from.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the hallucinations right now, a lot of the generative AI solutions are more likely to make up an answer than to come back and say, I don't know. And so that's where we're evolving out of right now. Some new models that are coming out where it will actually come back and say, I don't know, instead of making something up. But we're just not quite there yet.
So last thing, you mentioned Copilot. Both of you talked about Copilot. So I know they have ChatGPT and there's a lot of different tools out there. Are you saying that in Fulton County schools, our go-to tool is Copilot?
Yes. And I'll go and then I'll let you go here. Yeah, so Copilot is actually built on OpenAI's GPT platform. However, Microsoft has gone in and put certain protections in place. One of the protections is that all the data stays in our environment. And so with students making something and then it going out to the web or people being able to, train the model with our data, that won't happen with Copilot. And so our staff is welcome to use Copilot. Our students that are age 13 and over right now can use Copilot. And then we're also working with the AI task force to look at some other solutions that we can bring in for the start of next school year that will go along with that philosophy of building our safe ecosystem that we can explore.
We have come such a long way from 5 1/4-inch floppy drives with a green screen and DOS prompt. It's just amazing how far we've come in such a short amount of time. Thank you so much, folks, for joining another edition of Let's Talk Schools. Get involved. Learn more about artificial intelligence. See you soon. And now, let's go around the district in 90 seconds. That's it for our show this week. Let's keep this conversation going. We'd love to hear from you on our social media platforms. Join us next time on Let's Talk Schools, and thank you for watching.